lead to an actual real one. Steven Aftergood, your response to what Assange said and Glenn Greenwald before that.
Well, I actually agree with everything that Assange said in that statement. What I don't agree with is that it's an accurate characterization of what WikiLeaks has done. Glenn Greenwald had a lot to say. Let me just mention a couple of things. I don't believe that it's a choice between the WikiLeaks approach and giving up. This year, for the first time, the United States declassified and disclosed the size of its nuclear weapons arsenal. This year, for the first time, the U.S. government issued its first unclassified nuclear posture review report, the basic statement of nuclear weapons employment policy. This year, for the first time, the U.S. government disclosed the total intelligence budget, including both its civilian and military components. There is an alternative mechanism for progress. In today's paper, there's a story about ACLU having uncovered reports of violations of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act amendments. So it's really not a question of WikiLeaks or nothing. It's a question of a smart, well-targeted approach or a reckless shotgun approach. My concern about where we, going forward, I basically have two agenda items. In the security review process, I want to try and inject the idea, as Glenn Greenwald said, that overclassification is a problem here, and that as we fix the other security measures, we also need to focus on fixing the classification system, reducing the scope of classification sharply. The other agenda item, which WikiLeaks has made more difficult, is to prevent a rewriting of the Espionage Act statutes in order to make them more versatile and useful against both those who disclose classified information and those who publish such information. That is now building up steam, and I think we're likely to see efforts in that direction in the next Congress.
Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say, I have respect for the work that Steven Aftergood and other transparency activists do in Washington, working within the Congress and other American political institutions to try and bring about incremental reform. I think he's well-intentioned. I think we probably share the same values. The problem is that I just don't think that his perspective is A, realistic, or B, sufficiently urgent. I don't think it's realistic that the Congress of the United States, now dominated by the Republican Party in the House of Representatives and an extremely conservative Democratic Party in the Senate, and led by an administration, the Obama administration, that has actually increased secrecy weapons, including the state secrecy privilege and other forms of immunity designed to shield high-level executive power wrongdoing and lawbreaking from all forms of accountability or judicial review. I think it's incredibly unrealistic to take an optimistic view that that political system dominated by those factions is somehow on the verge of starting to bring about meaningful increases in transparency. And I think it's insufficiently Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm going to interrupt because I want to get to some memos that we've been getting from around the country that are very important and interesting. University students are being warned about WikiLeaks. An email from Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs that we read in headlines reads, I want to do it again, quote, "Hi students, we received a call today from a SEPA alumnus who is working at the State Department. He asked us to pass along the following information to anyone who will be applying for jobs in the federal government, since all would require a background investigation and in some instances a security clearance. The documents released during the past few months through WikiLeaks are still considered classified documents. He recommends you do not post links to these documents nor make comments on social media sites such as Facebook or through Twitter. Engaging in these activities would call into question your ability to deal with confidential information, which is part of most positions with the federal government. Regards, the Office of Career Services." That's the email to Columbia University students at the School of International and Public Affairs. Now, I want to go on to another memo. Democracy Now! Has obtained the text of a memo that's been sent to employees at USAID. This is to thousands of employees about reading the recently leaked WikiLeaks documents, and it comes from the Department of State. They have also warned their own employees. This memo reads, quote, any classified information that may have been unlawfully disclosed and released on the WikiLeaks website was not declassified by an appropriate authority, and therefore requires continued classification and protection as such from government personnel. Accessing the WikiLeaks website from any computer may be viewed as a violation of the SF312 agreement. Any discussions concerning the legitimacy of any documents or whether or not they are classified must be conducted within controlled access areas overseas or within restricted areas, USAID Washington. The document should not be viewed, downloaded, or stored on your USAID unclassified network computer or home computer. They should not be printed or retransmitted in any fashion. That was the memo that went out to thousands of employees at USAID. The State Department has warned all their employees you are not to access WikiLeaks, not only at the State Department, which they've blocked, by the way, WikiLeaks, but even on your home computers. Even if you've written a cable yourself, one of these cables that are in the trove of the documents, you cannot put your name in to see if that is one of the cables that has been released. This warning is going out throughout not only the government, as we see, but to prospective employees all over the country, even on their home computers. Steven Aftergood, your response.
It's obviously insane. I mean, if they're not allowed to read the cables on WikiLeaks, they shouldn't be allowed to read the cables on the New York Times or other sites. It's obviously ridiculous. You know, this whole Cablegate was intended as a provocation. Bradley Manning said it would give thousands of diplomats heart attacks. The system has been provoked. It is, you know, it is outrageous. It's kind of disgusting. The question is it good politics? I don't think so.
Finally, Glenn Greenwald, your final response.
I think that response is not one caused by WikiLeaks. I think that response is reflective of what our government is and the ethos that prevails. And it's every bit as severe as it was before WikiLeaks existed. And it's WikiLeaks that is devoted to subverting it. And I think those memos, those disgustingly repressive and authoritarian memos and the mindset in them shows why WikiLeaks is so needed.
We want to leave it there, and we want to thank Glenn Greenwald, speaking to us from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, a legal blogger at Salon.com, and Steven Aftergood of the Federation for American Scientists for engaging this debate. The response on our website has been just overwhelming. We've got the highest number of viewers online right now than we've had since the beginning of this. The interview we did with Daniel Ellsberg on October 20th, the day that he was flying off to London to have the news conference with Julian Assange announcing the latest trove of documents. They're releasing something like 250,000 documents, has now been hit close to 2.8 million times, and it is just soaring every day. The hunger for this information has been astounding. You can go to our website to see all the different coverage, as well as our interview with Noam Chomsky responding to the specific cables that have been released. Our website is democracynow.org.